Welcome to the Non-Profits, episode 24.45. For this week, I'm joined by Trust But Verify and Eli Slack, and I'm, of course, Damien H. For our first news article, Eli will be discussing Catholic saints cause uproar in Massachusetts. Eli, over to you.
This week's constitutional violation is a New England double dipper in both federal and state level violations, as Quincy, Massachusetts Mayor Thomas Koch is being sued by no less than 12 citizens for violating the religious neutrality mandated by state constitution. Mayor Koch, however, has doubled down, arguing that the Catholic saint statues mounted outside police and fire stations are secular demigods, not religious ones, just like how the cross in Bladensburg, Maryland somehow takes on a secular meaning when you need it to in order to violate the Establishment Clause. This story is from USA Today by Brianna J. Frank and Peter Blandino on October 28th, 2025.
Eli, thank you very much for that. And given that one of the ACA's principles is the separation of church and state, I did find something interesting in your opener where you said this week's constitutional violation, as if it's happening every week. And obviously you can tell from my accent that I'm not from around your part of the world, but given that there are 50-something states in America and lots of cities therein, there's always an opportunity for constitutional violation. So I just find it interesting that in this one, not only do we have a federal violation, but a state violation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally agree. I think that it does seem a lot more popular. And maybe that's just because I'm more aware. You know, I don't know what was going on when I was a child or in my teens, or really in my 20s that well. But I think it does seem that like majorly what we talk about is overreach from any given state government into their education system or some part of public life that in which religion is being placed where it shouldn't be. I think
I would say probably shoehorned. It might be the better word.
Yeah, I agree.
Because as we saw with Alabama, was it Alabama and Texas with the enforced 10 Commandments posters?
Oklahoma.
Oh, sorry.
Oklahoma and Texas, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Well, very, very down south anyway.
Alabama's a good guess.
I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
Wasn't too far off. But do you want to go over the crux of this article and just give us a bit more detail, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about how this seems to violate state religion, church-state separation?
Sure. Yeah. So essentially, as a part of renovating police and fire stations in Quincy, Massachusetts, so
we are only talking about one city in one state.
Yeah. It's the mayor of that city is who is actually being sued. It says by a dozen citizens. So I guess the article is naming exactly 12, but I didn't catch the names of them or an actual counting. But he wants to use city funds to place statues of two saints that I didn't write down the names of. Maybe one of you has them, but the patron saints of police and fire, or EMS, I think it was, but police and firefighters. Mm-hmm. And essentially the citizens are saying like, hey, no, that violates state neutrality guaranteed in our state constitution. And then it also does violate the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment of the federal constitution, which prohibits establishing a law with respect to religion. So that's essentially what they're being sued for. There has been an injunction placed, so he has been prevented from putting them in place until the lawsuit is settled and it's determined whether he's allowed to or not. Mm-hmm. But his argument seems to be that, well, no, these are commonplace. These, firefighters and police are using these saints all over the world to represent themselves. Basically, they're invoking these saints for protection all over the world. So that makes them secular. And it's like, no, they're still. I still compare them to demigods that are like invoked for a purpose instead of the actual god, and they have rituals and they have holidays and they have symbols and all these kinds of things. And it's like there's no concept of patron sainthood outside of Catholicism. So the idea that it's secular, I think, is a non-starter.
I would tend to agree with you there. So just for the record, Saint Michael and Saint Florian are the patron saints of. Yes. Trust, did you want to add your 2 cents?
I gotta agree. Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Eli. I mean, these saints are just like demigods, and it is specific to the Catholic and I believe the Orthodox religion as well. I think Orthodox religion has saints as well. So there's just no way you can call this secular in any way, shape, or form. And, to me, honestly, Mayor Koch claiming the statues of St. Michael and St. Florian are just, like calling them symbols of courage is like saying a crucifix is just good interior design. It doesn't make a bunch of sense to me. I mean, look at, no one's against honoring first responders. I mean, I have an immense amount of respect for first responders, but using Catholic saints on government property, I mean, that is the definition of state-endorsed religion. I mean, you don't get to slap a halo on it and call it civic pride.
Well, you can try. You can
really try, but
you can do that physically.
Yeah, I guess you could do anything you want. I mean, yeah, stick it in a hat and call it macaroni if you want, but I mean, it is what it is, right?
So just to add a little bit more context to this. So I've actually gone to the website firstrespondersfoundation.org, where you can actually purchase medallions of either Saint Florian or Saint Michael. And just reading from the description here, I'm going to read the Saint Michael one, who's a patron saint of police officers. As you turn the coin over, you will see a heroic depiction of Saint Michael, the patron saint of police officers. Saint Michael is an archangel, a spiritual warrior in the battle of good versus evil. He is considered a champion of justice, a healer of sick, and a guardian. Saint Michael is depicted in artwork with a sword or scales and is often shown vanquishing evil in the form of a dragon. Praying to Saint Michael will ask for protection against the threat of evil. So given that, how much secularity is there in placing 2 Catholic statues on city property?
None.
I mean, none at all. I mean, yeah. I mean, and so what are we now calling fires evil in that sense, or they gotta step on the head of the fire and, and flex. I mean, yeah, what are we getting to here?
And the flex is important.
Yeah.
So so me just reading this article, like trying to say that this isn't religious when the foundation that raises money by using those 2 Catholic saints invokes spiritual imagery all over it. I think that's what we call a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, a reach at best.
Yes, or an overreach.
Yeah. The thing that got me was, if the goal was to honor bravery, they could have picked literally anything else. I mean, literally anything. A firefighter saving a Hercules, a fire, or even if you wanted to even step back, a firefighter saving a kid, cop holding a flag. I mean, that doesn't exclude anybody, right? Instead, what do? They chose church icons and then clutched pearls when people pointed out that public buildings aren't supposed to double as cathedrals. I mean, that's wild to me. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And just on that, what I find interesting is not just one religion, but one specific denomination of one religion as well.
Yeah. Well, because he tried to compare it to, and I mentioned in the intro, he tried to compare it to the Peace Cross in Bladensburg, Maryland. It's a World War I memorial, and it's a cross commemorating the deaths of those who died in the Americans who died in World War I. And there was a actual Supreme Court ruling in 2019. They voted 7-2 in favor of maintaining that cross on public property or on government property, because they're like, no, it takes on a secular meaning when it marks a grave. And it's like, no, it still doesn't. Like the idea of marking graves with a cross is a purely Christian idea. Like there just doesn't. It's this idea that popularity makes it secular, and it's like no, just because a majority of the country, or like which isn't even the case anymore, I don't think. But like even if it were the case that a majority of the country, shares this religious belief, that doesn't make like popularity isn't secular. That's not. They're not the same thing, and that seems to be the argument they're making.
I mean, did anyone ask a Muslim about this? I mean,
right.
I think they would disagree.
Right. The Eli, I may actually disagree with you on the cross thing as well, because for example, in my part of the world, as you drive along the highway, what the authorities do is they'll place a cross on a roadside post or something to mark where someone has died in a motor vehicle accident. At that particular spot, and that's used kind of as a warning to other drivers. Well, hold on, someone else has died here, so wait up, slow down. You don't want to die here as well.
Right.
So, in some instances, to me, a crucifix can have a secular meaning.
I think it has a secular benefit, a secular function in that case. But I still think, because we've seen the same, or I've seen the same thing on our highways. Okay. And I think it's still the concept of using the cross to mark, you recognize it as a spot where somebody lost their life because of that association with that Christian imagery of marking a gravesite or a death site with a cross. So I agree that it definitely has a secular function. But I think the origin of it is strictly Christian.
Oh, yeah, I will agree that the origin is Christian. However, I do think that sometimes you can go into secular, into secular purposes of religious religious imagery.
Yeah, you got me there. Okay.
Yeah, I think I might side with Eli on this one, only because, why can't you just use an X instead of a cross? You know what I mean? Or if it's like if it looks like a plus sign, that might be okay. But a cross is it's a lowercase t, right? So if it looks like a lowercase t to me, it's going to scream
on the side,
Christianity.
It like a...
Yeah, he tilted a little bit, Right, exactly.
Yeah. And it's just St. Andrew's cross.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't get away from it.
Yeah.
So Eli, I do also want to ask you about, in this particular article from USA Today, there was a group who were actually trying to fight now let me just go through the article, who was the Becket Fund.
Okay.
Did you want to explain a little bit more about the Becket Fund and why they're infamous in the battle over church-state separation?
I'm not sure that I'm equipped to be totally fair with you. I had a little information here about like an earlier court case from like the 80s that was similar. But I'm afraid you might have asked me a question that I'm not equipped to answer.
Okay, fair enough. So reading from the article from USA Today, where was it? The Becket Fund, an organization that says it defends religious liberty as a universal right, is representing the city in the case. The organization won a case representing Hobby Lobby in a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case, granting private employers the right to deny contraception coverage to employees because of their religious belief.
Gotcha. Okay. I remember reading that now. I had missed the name of the fund. So yeah, and I vaguely remember that going on, and I don't agree with that finding. And I mean, I'm no legal expert, so I guess the finding is whether like they're allowed to do that or not. I guess I can't comment on that, but should they be? I don't think that they should be allowed to like choose what healthcare a person receives just because that's the place where we have very limited options of where we can get healthcare, and there are some platforms that encourage decreasing those the number of options. So the fact that it was ruled in favor, that they were given permission, I guess I'd say, to restrict what healthcare a person is allowed to receive, or not allowed to receive, but what have covered
they'll
by their
fund it.
insurance. Exactly. Just because of their own beliefs. I think that's an overreach. I think your personal beliefs should stay personal. Your business doesn't have anything to do with your religion. Your employees don't have anything to do with your religion. And it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. If that person is an employee there because that's one of the only available options for them to receive like income and healthcare and the other thing, like meet their needs, I think we shouldn't be giving anyone the power to restrict how a person meets their needs.
No, I will agree. So religious liberty is one thing, and I think we're all for the idea of people not being discriminated against on the basis of their religion. However, me personally, I think it's a little bit of overreach to say you must honor this statue or icon in the name of my religion, and you're not allowed to complain about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference between you. They say like, oh, you can't do that. It's against my religion. No. You can't do that. It's against your religion. I can do whatever I feel is like within the law and my moral, boundaries. So.
And just add a little bit more of an Australian context. How long ago was it? About 5 years ago, we did have a Pentecostal prime minister who is essentially the equivalent of your president.
Interesting.
And he tried to introduce anti-religious discrimination laws. And so he set up a committee and set up a political party elder to run the committee to find a report to say, yes, Australia needs religious discrimination laws. And it essentially turned into a battle of who can be discriminated against, particularly at religious schools. Sorry?
Like who could be? I didn't mean to cut you off or talk over you, but I was thinking who could be discriminated against the most.
Yeah, because they were talking about the ability to be able to fire or to sack people who have been divorced, people who are LGBTQ from religious schools, and so it turned into a thing where something that was meant to stop you being discriminated against on your religion turned into, well, it was attempted to be turned into a sword to be used against other people in the name of your religion. And to me here, this is starting to go along that same line.
I think so. I think I've seen some similar patterns here. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, to me, it's coming along the lines of, we the aforementioned 10 commandments that are trying to go up in different states, and the fact that they're trying to teach the Bible in schools, in public schools. I mean, this is just, it's just going along these same lines. It's just another step, blurring the lines between church and state. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to keep that line clear and that line drawn.
Sure. Indeed. Now, there's one factor that we haven't discussed in this case at all. It wasn't mentioned in the article, but I did a little bit of research and I found this. Does anybody know how much these statues are costing the city?
No.
Okay. Do you want to have a rough ballpark guess?
I'll say 10 million.
Okay, not quite.
I was going to go that high. Yeah,
I was thinking maybe that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe 250K.
No, you're both wrong. According to the Washington Post article I'm reading here from October the 25th, 850,000.
Oh, that's still a lot. Yeah, that
is a lot. I thought 250K was a lot.
Yep. So reading the headline here, a Boston area mayor decided to spend $850,000 in taxpayer funds on 2 statues of Catholic saints, prompting a legal battle. So by the time the legal battles have been fought, we are looking at over $1 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
And given the cost of living crisis that is happening in the Western world, I'm pretty sure there's one happening in America like in Australia, is $1 million of taxpayer funding for something that provides very little public benefit. Is that the best use of government money?
Not
Not
at
at
all.
all. Not at
I'd
all.
say it provides no tangible benefit whatsoever. I mean, I guess beautification is a tangible benefit, and like statues are cool, right? It's not my favorite style of art, I guess, but for some people, yeah, statues are great, and beautification, there's something to be said about it, but that's not $1 million worth of benefit.
No. Would it be any easier if these statues were privately donated but put on public grounds?
I don't think there's a difference.
Sorry?
I mean, it's cheaper. I mean, it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money, but still, the fact of it remains is that we're still promoting a religion on government property. You know, that's just unacceptable.
Fair enough. I will. That's fair. Trust. I will agree with you there. It is still a promotion of a particular religious doctrine on public grounds.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I have to say about this is, you know, it is just very ironic that the Beckett Fund is just swooping in to save the day, right? To defend this, you know, and religious liberty isn't the same as government promoting my religion. I mean, if you want your saints on display, fine. You know what? Pay for your own walls on private property to do it. You know, plenty of places you can do that in the city where people can see it.
Yeah.
I think that's a great last word. And if you want more of the nonprofits, click on the links down below.